Good morning to all. Right now it's about 6:24 in the morning. It is Wednesday, December 11th. It's a rainy day here in New Jersey, and gotta say, things are going fine. A lot of people don't like the rain, but we've been in one of those situations that doesn't happen too often where New Jersey was in a drought. Um, Wildfires were breaking out all over the state in some of the forests, but one of the reasons is no rain. So it's actually good we're getting this. There's supposed to be some kind of system coming up. They call it a cyclone bomb coming up through like Georgia, whatever. It's going to go all the way up through Maine. They'll get a bunch of snow. We'll get the rain. There might be some flooding in cities along the way too. But you know something? We need water to live. Let the rain come. It might not be the best in case you want to go outside or do lawn work or go play in the park, but we need water on the land. Farmers need it, everything else. But I digress. So this was a good week for me. Really had no issues. So just to get it basically, now I'm back down to 236. This is exactly the 50 pounds from when I started this whole endeavor. So I came back. Now, with the picture I put in the thumbnail, I did that intentionally with these last three measurements because this was 2 weeks ago on the Wednesday right before Thanksgiving. Okay, that was I had done it. I did 50 pounds before I reached the age of 50. I celebrated immensely with this one. Okay, then I kind of took my first real week off. This is what, episode 28 or something like that. So in 28 weeks, I took 1 week off. And just by keeping my eye off the prize, I found myself in a gain position. Which is fine though, because I knew this was going to be a temporary situation. Okay? And look, it's exactly what happened. So it was almost like a 4 pound gain between 2 weeks ago and last week. And now I've already got 3.3 of it done. While I'm still zero point 0.9 off of where I was in total, I knew I was going to bounce back. I really had no illusions that this whole endeavor was broken, that I couldn't possibly get back. Oh, woe is me. No, I knew exactly what was happening. I had done it. I take full responsibility for it. And I knew it wasn't a problem. It really wasn't. That week that I did the 4 pound gain, so to speak, it was, Thanksgiving, my birthday, there were celebrations, I snacked. It happened. But this stuff is pretty volatile as it is. So, and this goes whether you're taking an injection like this or you're just doing this on your own, things are going to happen from time to time. And the best thing about it was not being overly discouraged. Was I a little upset? I actually was minorly. But I had resigned myself that I knew this was going to happen this week. And I did it early enough that when I did my official weigh-in last Wednesday, it wasn't like, oh my God, how did this happen? I knew exactly how it happened. I shouldn't have allowed it to happen, but hey, like I said, bouncing back like I knew I would. Now I just got to keep my mind and target my focus as much as I possibly can on the 220s. Okay? I will get there. I know I will get there. So, I had a very interesting thing happen this week, and I hope she's watching out there. So, one of the things when I checked in with my doctor about a month ago or so was he was asking me how things were going. He saw the progress I've made. He said, you're doing just about what you should be doing right now. And he wasn't going to up me from 1 milligram to anything higher than that. People do go up to 2 milligrams. And he goes, we don't have to do that. But how is it? And I said, something? I do have, I don't know if it's a side effect, but a sensation. I'm going to stand up for this for a second. So if this is my belly, okay, on this side, just in this area, I can't describe it. There's something, okay? It's not pain, but it is a sensation mildly discomfortable. So he goes, I tell you what, why don't we just check things out? And then he started going into other possible side effects that could happen to people. He also said it could be a blockage, like in the intestine of some kind. I was like, all right, well, I've been going, although not as much as I used to the toilet. I was like, well, let's give it a look. And he goes, I'm gonna recommend you get a ultrasound, and we're gonna ultrasound that section of your belly, and they'll come back and tell me whatever. And I said, well, guess what? If you're doing the ultrasound of the belly, why don't we also ultrasound the liver again? Because, I had been diagnosed with a fatty liver over a decade ago, at least. Probably even more than that. I think it was before I even met my wife. So, and since college, I was a bit of a drinker. So, I'm sure it would happen. And then when I was getting, just everything measured, everything analyzed, and what have you, I had it done again, thinking, all right, we had a baseline. I know I've gained some weight at that point. Why don't we get another scan? And I did it with him. And yeah, it was still kind of a fatty liver. Again, wouldn't expect it to just go away on its own. So when I was planning with him at least 3 months ago, I have actually on a whiteboard on my wall that you can't see from there, a list of a whole bunch of dates. And I said, then when are we going to do a scan again? He goes, oh, I'm not going to do that until like July. That would have been like 1 full year since we started this. And I was like, oh, God, I gotta wait a whole year to see if maybe this and my new lifestyle is changing things for the better as far as my liver's concerned. All right. So I put it out there. But then when he said he wants to do the ultrasound of the belly to see if there's anything that he could see that might be in that region of my belly that causes discomfort, I was like, do the liver too. And he goes, don't worry, we are, because it's going to be a full abdominal ultrasound. I was like, all right, no problem. Great. So I had that done actually last Saturday. Appointment was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I had to fast for the scan, which for me actually ended up being a little bit more not having a meal than I'm used to, because I get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And when I do, I have breakfast almost immediately. So now I'm up at like 5 in the morning, and now I have to wait another 4 hours after that. So that wasn't pleasant. Luckily, I was able to like immerse myself in doing like, some task or some job or some work. So I let the time go as fast as it could. But I finally did it, went there, no problem. They put the warm jelly on you, take a little thing, be done. But here's the funny thing that happened. The technician who was there started to talk to me, and she was mentioning things like, everyone's got a fatty liver in some fashion. It's something that happens. I don't know if it's just happening more often to everyone in the world, or if it's something that people just naturally get to. But you hear about it more nowadays than you'd hear about it back then. So, and I was like, yeah, I'm hoping to take care of that, because I've been actually on Ozempic, and I've lost 50 pounds, and I've changed my lifestyle, and I'm hoping that this has beneficial effects to the liver. I mean, the liver's pretty important to your body system. And she kind of like lit up, and she's like, my husband's on it, and he's like this and he's like that. And she started saying, well, how long did it take, for like your vomiting to stop? And I was like, vomiting? I was like, there should be no vomiting. Well, he's an eater. I was like, well, that might be so, but you're not supposed to take these injections and overeat. So it's not like maintain your lifestyle exactly the way it was and take an injection too. I mean, it's going to do some things to your belly. Like, it's going to be practically, from what I believe, like a chemical lap band to try to make your stomach be a little bit smaller, to not need a lot of food. It's also going to do things like it will keep the food in your belly longer, so it prolongs digestion. So it keeps you feeling fuller longer. So if you do a big lunch and then 4 hours later do a big dinner, there's not enough capacity to put in there. So you're almost like stuffing yourself too much. That regurgitation is going to be a natural thing that's going to happen because you don't have the space. So if you're going to do a regimen like this, it's going to be very important that you tone down the quantity. Okay? If you're looking for great results, I would say tone down the quality or tone up the quality as well. So every now and again, throw in a salad or throw in vegetables and fruits and things like that instead of fried foods and pizzas and, the things that people will say are bad for you. But you don't want to stuff yourself while you're trying to do this endeavor. You've got to, and there's little tips that you can do this. For instance, chew your food. Enjoy it. Make sure you get it down as fine as you can before you swallow and get it down into your belly. There are even things like, while you're doing this, just take smaller bites. You can still try to get the whole portion you want, but take time with it. This isn't just putting your hand in something and blah, 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 and, getting it in there. So, you can't just say, oh, but I'm in this because I'm diabetic and therefore I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, or maybe even up it, and it will do what it does. In fact, I think recently there was one of those American Horror Stories episode where a model actually does that, where she ingests something and then starts eating ravenously and starts losing weight while she's doing it. But the reason why is because she's got a tapeworm that's feeding off of it. So she kind of like is doing the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. Wasn't a good episode, but that was the gist of it. We had actually a great conversation my entire session of doing the ultrasound. And in fact, she probably kept me later because we were talking so much, which would have pushed maybe her next appointment back just a little bit. Which is funny because I think it was an older dude who probably showed up like an hour or two in advance for this to begin with. But I mean, it was a very nice woman. She was doing her own dieting herself and exercise without using a chemical because she wasn't diabetic and making her own progress. So I say, good for you, ma'am. And then he was doing it, but it looks like was not changing any habits along the way. So, it is important. Like I said, even if you don't change what you eat, just eat it with smaller bites and completely chew your food before going on. And what might happen is maybe you get yourself a nice big old sloppy burger, right? Which, by the way, sounds delicious right now. If you don't wolf it and just swallow it down whole, but take a bite and spend time with it, you might find that when you've gotten halfway through, you're actually sated. And you might look down and be like, oh, so it's a waste. Something. Put a toothpick in it, put it in tinfoil, throw it in your fridge. Finish it later on. Same thing happens with pizza. I enjoy pizza. My wife and I can actually make it at home and it tastes pretty damn good, but we also might get it somewhere else. But I know it's like you might just grab 2 slices, throw it on your plate, eat them really good, and crust 2 maybe, and then grab the next ones. But if I put 1 slice on my plate and then slowly eat it, we might be watching TV while we're having this for dinner and just, take my time with it. Take a bite, go to the next, wait, take a small pause between bites. I'll find that the 1 slice will be enough. I literally am not hungry anymore. So yeah, I know I could eat 3 or 4 slices if I wanted to just throw it in there. But just doing that was amazing. In fact, it even happened last night. So on Tuesdays, because I know I do this on Wednesday mornings, I do my weigh-ins on Wednesday mornings. On Tuesdays, I will do a lot of like almost fasting, like intermittent fasting. I will definitely not eat meals during Tuesdays. It's my last ditch effort to make my number as great as possible for Wednesday morning. But last night I came home from my trainer and my wife had actually made spaghetti with sauce. Okay. So I wanted it, But I knew it was my last ditch effort to get something done that I want done. So we still had 2 small clementines in a bowl. And I'm like, that's my dinner. And it'll work. So I grabbed a glass of water and I grabbed my 2 clementines and I sectioned off all the different sectors of the clementines in a bowl. We sat down. We've been watching that show Ted, which has been funny. It's on Peacock now. We've got access to Peacock, so we've been watching that. So we're going to put on our one episode because usually, we didn't sit down until like 8:30, 8:45. So we'll put on a 45-minute show. It's at 9:30. We're tired. We're going to bed. That's just our life. So, but again, we wake up between 4 and 6 in the morning, so we're still having a full day. So we sat down, and I literally, with a knife, was jabbing a wedge of the orange and eating it, chewing it slowly. But I was watching the show. So I was actually giving my body time to put this in there and register between my belly and my brain, am I still hungry? And yeah, an orange doesn't sound like a meal. But I was literally doing that. I was just picking off a wedge and putting it in it, chewing it slowly, letting it go in, taking a sip of water, and waiting. Because the show's funny too, so I'm actually enjoying it and I'm laughing along the way. But when I was done with the bowl and all the orange wedges were done, I wasn't hungry any longer. But I do know that if I just sat there and just like, no, and ate all the wedges as fast as possible, being like, oh, that wasn't enough, I need more, I would have gotten something else. I would have preempted the fact that my belly hasn't told my brain, hey, I'm fine now. I'm not going to growl any longer. I'm not going to do anything else. And I've just gotten into the habit of sometimes eating slowly and letting everything happen by itself. And I was literally good for the night. I didn't require a dessert in any kind. I didn't require pretzels or popcorn or anything else, whether it would be good or bad on the dessert scale. No, I had water and an orange, 2 small clementine oranges, which is pretty much the size of 1 full orange. That's all I required. And actually last night, I think before dinner, it was 236.9-ish. So just by making this effort and letting the body run its course, I dropped down the 1 pound overnight practically. So again, these are things that work for me. They seem to be sound principles. So if you adopt just 1 or 2 of them, things can change. Now, in my case, I'm hating this whole endeavor in a 5-point plan practically. I have cut down on what I eat and how much I eat. I'm exercising, which is extremely important, by the way, because even when you do injections or whatever else, sometimes your weight loss comes with muscle loss. So exercise is actually pretty important with this. So now I'm feeding my muscles while working them and letting them break down and rebuild stronger. Okay, and by doing that, it needs fuel from the body. So I'm doing a pretty good metamorphosis of fat to muscle as I do these exercises. All right, so food, exercise. My drinking I cut down to, I think, about 1/3 of what I used to do. Again, drinking slower, not racing to get to the second one. And I'm fine. I really am. Because I snore at night, whatever else, I pretty much have sleep apnea. So I use a CPAP machine that I put over my mouth and I get more oxygen while I sleep, which is better for my system because I'm not waking myself up. I'm waking up rested. I don't like wearing the CPAP machine. It's actually a pain in the ass sometimes, especially to get used to for the first month or two. But I'm getting more oxygen while I sleep and I'm sleeping with a better rest. And I'm taking my Ozempic. So I'm hitting it as many ways as I possibly can. And therefore, in the last 28 weeks, I've lost 50 pounds. And I'm going to keep this train rolling as long as it will let me be a passenger. So, that's what I have for today. Some of it was repeat. Some of it was kind of like new and experiences. But yeah, if people are doing this and they want to hear some opinions about it, especially from the male perspective, which some of my listeners had told me from the very beginning of my injections. They said, I'm so happy to hear a male perspective on taking semaglutides. I always hear female perspectives. I'm glad to do it. My husband's doing it. Whatever happens. So, put them in this direction, because I'm here to tell you about my journey, but I've also been, communicating with some of you and giving you whatever thoughts I have to help you out, whatever motivation to help you out, and you name it. So, at that, I'm done. We're just under 21 minutes, so a nice, kind of short, I think. I will see you here next week. I have every intention of breaking this record in the next coming week, as I make my way to change this 3 tens column to a 2. I don't think it will happen in 1 week, but perhaps it can happen by Christmas. I mean, it is the 11th. Christmas is in 2 weeks. It's in 14 days. 6 pounds in 14 days? I think I can do it. So that's my new goal. Get into 220s by Christmas. All right. You'll see how I'm doing. I'll tell you how I'm doing. All right. Bye-bye. I'll see you back in a week.